Mercedes-Benz invented the term four-door coupe with the CLS way back in 2004. Fast forward to 2013, and they introduced a smaller model called the CLA that acted as their entry point here in the United States. Now they have released the second generation of the CLA. This is a 2021 model, and just like the previous CLA, they've let the AMG division get their grubby little hands on it. This is the 2021 CLA 45, the fastest and most powerful version that is available here in the United States, and today I'm going to show you what it's all about. So let's start by taking a walk around of the CLA 45. This is a small front-wheel drive platform car that shares a platform with the A-Class, which is a sedan, the GLA, which is sort of a coupe-like SUV, and the GLB, which is sort of a boxy mini G-Wagon. Now the CLA has this very sleek front end with this power bulging hood here on the 45 model. The headlights are actually quite big, but they're much sleeker than the last generation CLA. I do like that change. Although interestingly, the A sedan has a little bit more angled headlights than this. The CLA 45 gets the Pan Americana grille, which we see on a bunch of AMG models right now. Although interestingly, the A35 and CLA 35s don't have this grille just yet. I've talked to Mercedes about it. They say they might do it in a following model year. There are a bunch of different wheel options available. We've got these 19-inch faux center lock wheels. I've seen these on a bunch of AMG models now. They look great, although there's a ton of optional wheel packages that are cheaper than these. We do have 6-piston front brakes in front of these. We have our turbo 4MATIC badge here on the front fender. Coming around the back, you can see this is a very coupe-like rakish roofline, giving the impression that although this car has 4 doors, it does somewhat resemble a coupe. Back here with this very sleek rear end. Now in Europe, you can get the A-Class hatchback as a 45 model. I think that one is the best looking of them all, but this CLA is much better looking than the outgoing model. I love these taillights, which look very similar to the new S-Class and the CLS. We also have this little lip spoiler here that looks really nice. Quad exhaust tips, although if you look behind, you'll see that it's only dual exit exhausts, but once you hear them, you will not be disappointed that they've kind of faked the quads. Now, this is available as a sedan in the A-Class, but not as a 45. If you want more practicality, you got to go for the GLA SUV. All right, so now let's hop inside the CLA 45, where again, this is still a base level vehicle. This is at the bottom or towards the bottom of Mercedes lineup, along with the A-Class sedan, the GLA SUV, and the GLB SUV. They all sit on the same platform. So I know this is the AMG model, so we do have a lot of upgrades there for that. But in terms of this being a base level Mercedes, we do have some really nice materials. You've got some really nice metal finishes here on the buttons. All of the controls have this nice metallic knurling, which is great. I love the air vents. They have a nice clicky feel and they light up beautifully at night. This car has some of the best ambient lighting that you'll ever see. The steering wheel is the familiar now AMG steering wheel. I love this steering wheel. The only thing I don't love about this particular one is that it's finished in a two-tone, two-material Alcantara and leather. I wish it was just all leather, which you can get optionally. So you can do this as all Alcantara, you can do it as a mix, or you can do it in all leather. I would go for all leather. We also have the mode selectors here, so you can put the car into its comfort, sport, sport plus, individual, and slippery modes here from this dial, which is really cool. You can also customize the car individually. So if I just want, let's say, everything in comfort, but I want the sport suspension, sport plus suspension, I can do that here. You can change what this side does. So right now, this one's showing suspension. I can change that to auto stop start on and off, traction control, what have you. And all of those controls are also mirrored here on these little buttons by this little hand control. That's the story of Mercedes-Benz right now, is they put in a lot of redundant controls. So if you don't like controlling it one way, you can just do it some other way. For example, on this steering wheel, we have these little black knobby things. I think they look like the stylus from like a BlackBerry cell phone. This side controls these gauges here. As you can see, all digital. We have two 10.25-inch displays. They look gorgeous. You can change the themes here. I have it right now in its sport setting. You can go ahead and put it into its super sport setting. You're going to see that gives it this really futuristic looking design. Or if you want something a little little more conventional. You can go back into designs, put it into classic. There are a million ways to customize this. You can even have it be a full map, which is really cool. So if I come over here to navigation, and then I scroll over here, I can have it be the full display. So watch, now the gauges are going to disappear. Now I have a full map taking up that area, which is really cool. So there's almost too much customization here on this center screen, but it is really cool and really clear that you can have it however you want. Coming over here to the main infotainment system, this is the MBUX system, the Mercedes-Benz User Experience. It is a touch screen, so you can just get on it and touch it if you want. You can also say, "Hey Mercedes,
how may I help you?"
And that'll give you access to voice commands, which is pretty cool. So you can ask it different questions. "Hey Mercedes. Hey Mercedes.
How can I help?
What do you think of BMW?"
The same as you. Otherwise, you would not be sitting here.
Oh, that's a burn. So that's a really cool feature. If you don't want to touch it and get your screen all full of fingerprints, you can control it here on this little touchpad as well. I found that I kind of like controlling it on the steering wheel, so you don't have to take your hands off as much. Talking about this layout here, we do have some other buttons here. You have your nav, radio settings, so you can quick hit those if you don't want to touch it or use this controller. We do have an optional 360-degree camera when you put it into reverse, which is quite nice as well. We also have another dynamic select controller here. So again, a million ways to do that. In terms of storage space, pretty good. We have 2 cup holders here. They work pretty well and they're pretty unintrusive. And we do have some storage space here with a wireless charger that is quite nice as well. So there are plenty of places to put your devices should you need them, with a little bit of center armrest storage as well. I like this little AMG plaque here. That's kind of neat, and that does light up really well at night. Now I have to mention that we do have the AMG Recaro seats on this model. They are quite aggressive, but I think if you're going for a 45, you might as well get these. These are, you know, they give you the full experience. And what's cool about these, even though they're highly bolstered, they do have side bolster adjustability, and they have heating and ventilation, which is quite nice as well. So Mercedes calls this car a 4-door coupe. What does that mean? Well, it's got 4 doors like a sedan, but as you can see, the roofline is really tilted down to make it look like a coupe. You also get these beautiful pillarless doors, so the window completely disappears when down. That is really cool. That's something you usually get on a coupe. Now, the thing is, this is still a very small sedan. We only have 33.9 inches of legroom, so as you can see, my knees are quite close to touching, but the big issue here is not the legroom, it is the headroom. Because of that coupe-like roofline, I'm only 5'8", and yeah, my head is definitely touching the ceiling here. You are going to get a lot more space in the other vehicles that ride on this platform, like the GLA 45 SUV, the GLB, which is boxy, doesn't have a 45 version yet, and the A-Class sedan, which has a conventional roofline, but again, no 45 version here in the United States. Now, this is still a luxury car, though. Again, not huge proportions, but we do at least have air vents, and if I fold out this little cubby area, 2 USB-C ports. All right, so let's check out the trunk space here. Now, you may be wondering where the trunk release is. They actually hide it inside the Mercedes emblem, which is quite clever. I think they might have taken that from Volkswagen, though. We've only got 11.6 cubic feet of storage, which is not massive for this class. For comparison, the BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe, which they don't offer anything nearly as powerful as this, but that vehicle offers 15.1 cubic feet of space, which is a lot more than this. If you want more storage space, you're going to have to go for either the A-Class, which only comes as a 35, or you can opt for the GLB SUV, which does come as a 45 with the same engine as this car. So before we get it out on the road, I want to talk about the big story here on the CLA 45 version, which is this engine. It's called the M139. Yeah, Mercedes is not that good at naming stuff like Voodoo or Titan or anything crazy cool name like that. Nope, it's M139, and it is still a very interesting engine because this is the most powerful production 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that you can buy today, and it is much different than the one you'll get on the CLA 250 or the CLA 35, which are again both 2-liter 4-cylinder cylinders. It is actually rotated completely 180 degrees. The intake is now at the front for better response. The turbocharger is now at the back with the exhaust manifold. Now this turbocharger is now a twin scroll unit with 2 scroll profiles, just like what you get on the 4-liter twin turbocharged AMG motor. So that means at low RPM, it runs a different scroll profile to spool up quicker, and then it changes profiles once the engine is spooled to give you better responsiveness. And like a true AMG model, not the 35 models, which are only sub-AMG models, this one is handcrafted by one man or one woman in Mercedes in Affalterbach. This one was made by Stefan Wenger, I believe. So Stefan, let's see what your engine can do out on the road. So now that we've talked about that brilliant engine that's under the hood, the M139, let's see what it does out on the road. I'm going to show you a launch control, which is what Mercedes calls race start. Really easy to do. You just put it into Sport Plus mode. We don't have race mode. Again, it's optional but not fitted on this car. And then you put your foot on the brake, foot on the gas, go. It's one of the easiest launch control systems to use. And Mercedes even has a cool feature where you can time yourself doing a 0 to 60. So I'm going to see how close we can get to this car's 4.1 second estimated time. So let's pull out. I'm going to hit the track pace app. It says warning, you can only use this on race tracks, and to start the measurement, all you have to do is just start. So foot on the brake, foot on the gas, race start. Wow, oh my goodness, that was an incredible start. Okay, let's see what our result was. It says 0 to 60 in 4.16 seconds. The road is a little damp and we got within 0.06 of this car's top 0 to 60 time. I have a feeling that if you did that on a skid pad on a perfect day, you could get this car maybe to 4 seconds flat, maybe under 4 seconds. This car is a absolute freaking rocket ship. It is crazy. This is the most powerful turbocharged 4-cylinder car money can buy right now, and we don't even have the most powerful version. Listen to it. It makes such a noise, and then it pops on the overrun. You don't hear that much of it in the cabin. Some of it is a little artificial, but out from the exhaust, you do hear all the crackles and pops. Oh, this is a really good, and then there you go, pop, 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 pop. This car is an absolute weapon. Again, the power is going out through an 8-speed dual clutch. It shifts rapidly. I love those pops. It shifts rapidly quick in Sport Plus mode, smooth in comfort mode. When you have it in Sport Plus mode and that turbo is spooled, nothing can keep up with this car. It is just power gone. And we have the power going to all-wheel drive, so it is grippy. It launches right off the line. You can always put the power down. This car is crazy. Limited to 155 mile an hour top speed, but you can actually take the limiter off and get up to 166 miles an hour. I love this engine. It is such a beast. Watch this, ready? Love this engine. This is a hoot to drive. So now that we've talked about the engine and all that stuff, let's get a little bit into the handling prowess of this car. The steering, when you're in Sport Plus mode, has a really nice weight to it. It's a little bit light when you're in comfort mode, but I really do like how this car drives when it's in its Sport Plus settings. I might, here on the mode controller, put the suspension in comfort, keep the steering in Sport Plus, because it really allows you to just feel what the front end of this car is doing. I love the fact that this car is tiny. We've got McPherson front struts in the front, and in the back we've got 4-link multi-link rear suspension. Very sophisticated setup here with 3 dampening modes for the suspension. You have Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus. Again, I think the Comfort mode is just fine. Maybe put it into Sport. We've got 6 piston brakes up front. Those are going to bring you to a stop real quickly. So yeah, I'm just very impressed with the way this car turns in, the way that it really feels tiny, more so than a lot of other AMG products, more than a lot of Audi products. This is just the type of experience that I look for. This is the only thing that's missing for me here is a hatchback, because this is basically the tiny hot hatchback formula, and I really do love how it drives. So now that we've seen all that this AMG can do in its Sport Plus modes when you're driving it enthusiastically, let's put it back into comfort mode and see what it does now. So you instantly hear that active exhaust quiets right down. There's a little bit of a drone, but like it's so hesitant, like it's still a 4-cylinder. You're not gonna hear like a burble the entire time you're driving. It becomes very quiet. This is still a very sleek car. You have some noise from the tires, but it's not too bad. The suspension is back in its comfort setting, still firm. This is an AMG after all. It's not going to be a cushy ride on any version of the CLA 45's suspension, but I want to say that this doesn't punish you so bad that it would keep me out of buying one of these. You're buying a CLA 45, you know it's going to be somewhat firm, you know you're not buying a cushy luxury car here. But I could drive this every day. It's quiet. I got used to the seats. If you're not too big of a person, I think you'll get used to these seats pretty much right away. And as long as you're fine with a car that's pretty firm, I think you're going to be fine. Now, the thing that's interesting here is now that we are in comfort mode, the engine is so different. It is so laggy. I'm putting my foot down on the throttle and I'm just not getting the acceleration that I got when I was in the Sport and Sport Plus modes. It really does feel like a completely different engine. This is still a very small engine putting out a huge amount of power because it has a very large turbocharger, and you'll note that when you're driving it in comfort mode and you just need to make a quick pass, come on. Sometimes you'll notice those quick passing maneuvers are going to be a little difficult because it is a huge turbo. You kind of have to wait for it to spool up, so it's kind of interesting. But if you drive this car like a normal person, you'll get pretty decent fuel economy. You'll get 20 in the city, 29 on the highway. I've averaged, you can pretty much get 30 on the highway if you really try, and you'll get about 23 mpg combined, which I've been driving this car a little enthusiastically, but I've still averaged about 21 mpg, so that's not too bad. So I do think this is a very nice daily driver if you don't need the size and the space of a C-Class. I love how tight and compact this car feels. On a back road, this will keep up with a 720S, I guarantee it. The McLaren will not get away from this. This is so grippy and fun, and it does enough to be a comfortable cruiser that I think I would recommend it highly. Now, the CLA is, of course, based on a front-wheel drive architecture, but the 45 version of this car is really going to take things to a different level. Now, we don't have, like I mentioned, the optional race mode that also gets you the drift mode. And the big thing that we're missing here on this car is the torque, the AMG torque control. So that's going to give you some different rear axle differentials. You're going to get 2 electronically controlled multi-disc clutches that can transfer the power not only front and rear but also left and right, so they can transfer 100% of the engine's torque from the left to the right wheels, which is pretty cool. Basically, you can power slide this car. It will transfer up to 100% of the engine's torque to the rear wheels. Now, it won't go full rear wheel drive, but it will allow the car to do some ridiculous slides. So this is an all-wheel drive car that you can slide around like a rear-wheel drive car and have some hooligan fun, which is absolutely hilarious. Now, this turbocharged engine, I've talked about it a lot. It has the highest boost pressure of any 4-cylinder engine with 2.1 bar from the factory. It's crazy. I can't even imagine what happens if you go ahead and tune this. And what's amazing, most amazing about this car is there's a more powerful version of this engine available in Europe in the CLA 45S. We don't get it here in America. Instead of 382 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque, the Europeans get a 416 horsepower 2-liter engine. That's absolutely crazy. I really hope Mercedes decides to sell that here, although as of right now, they have not confirmed it. But I still think that with 382 horsepower and a 7,200 RPM redline, this is the most fun turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that I've ever driven, and the only car that I think even gets close to this in terms of like excitement level in this class is the Audi RS3. Now, the Audi RS3 has a 2.5-liter 5-cylinder that does sound better than this. I think that the Audi 5-cylinder is better than this in terms of sound. It's also more powerful. That engine made 400 horsepower in the outgoing generation. We have yet to see how much the new RS3 is going to produce. So that's going to be an interesting comparison when Audi releases the new RS3. And if it does produce more than this, I have a feeling Mercedes is going to have to drop that S version here in the United States. Now, there is another competitor to this as well. You've got the BMW M2 Competition. Little bit of a different experience because unlike the RS3 or this car, that is a two-door rear-wheel drive car. You can get that with a manual, which is something that's obviously not available here or in the RS3, and that has an inline-six twin turbocharged motor that does also produce more power than this. So again, I love how this CLA 45 drives. It grips. I think this drives better than an RS3 for sure. The fact that you can transfer so much power to the rear makes this more exciting than the RS3 was. The RS3 just edges it out in terms of how special its engine is. The M2 is still something a little bit different if you're looking for rear-wheel drive and a manual. So that was the 2021 Mercedes-Benz CLA 45 AMG. Now, pricing for this is not that bad to start. It starts at just over $55,000. The problem is, as I mentioned in the interior, everything costs extra. This car has so many optional extras. The price balloons over $73,000, making it more expensive than pretty much all of its rivals, including the rear-wheel drive BMW M2 and the Audi RS3. Now, driven in a vacuum, I think this car is an absolute hoot. The dynamics are great. The engine is fantastic, but the Audi RS3, which is getting a new version sometime next year, and the M2 Competition are both great cars as well, so you're really going to have to drive all three. Now, the CLA differentiates itself a little bit by being a four-door coupe. The Audi is, of course, just a conventional sedan, and the M2 is, of course, only available as a two-door car, so that's interesting there. And then Cadillac is going to jumble up this whole mix as well when they come out with their CT4V Blackwing, which should produce 464 horsepower, be rear-wheel drive, and include the option of a manual transmission. So that's going to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in. But if you are a Mercedes-Benz fan and you're coming from something like a Golf R or an STI or an Evo and you want something a lot more luxurious and fancy, I think the CLA 45 is a hilarious, fun to drive option that I would definitely recommend. Just be careful with those options. We really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed it enough, please leave us a like. That would be very helpful. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That lets you know every time we post a new video. And check us out on all of our other social media platforms, including Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, where we post fun little videos about all the cars we review, including this CLA 45. I'll see you next time.